A stark warning today from the top Democrat on the House Budget Committee about potential moves by the president if the economy doesn't get back on track. Take a look.
I am very concerned that Donald Trump will continue to follow the autocrat's handbook, which is, as the economy gets worse, distract people by something else, by finding a group to demonize and blame. And so I think we also have to be wary that in the next couple of months, as we get closer to the election, this administration will get even more aggressive as it relates to ICE and what they call the crackdown on illegals, but so far has really hurt so many communities across this nation.
Joining me now, former Republican Congressman from Virginia, Denver Riggleman. He was a senior advisor to the January 6th Select Committee and a good friend to us. So, Denver, is the congressman onto something? I mean, can you see the president taking a page from the autocratic handbook if things don't go his way? And if so, what concerns you most? Oh, you're laughing, but it can be scary.
It is scary because, when you talk about the autocrat's handbook, I'm thinking of January 6th. I mean, it isn't hard to see that past performance is indicative of future performance. And the autocrat's handbook is, ginning up some kind of conspiratorial nuttery on the others that are somehow hurting you or taking jobs from you, or the people that are stealing the election from you. And you're seeing it right now, right, with Steve Bannon, Alex, who's saying that there has to be a national emergency to have armed ICE agents at the polling stations. I dealt with this yesterday with questions in a large group of people who are like, Denver, what do we do? And I think that's what you're saying is you're starting to see his acolytes.
Hold your thought there, because I want to play some of what Steve Bannon has said. You brought it up, so we got a soundbite. Let's play it, everybody. Take a listen.
This is why we need a national emergency proclamation, a national emergency memo about the upcoming elections. You're going to have a forcing function to get to ID. You're going to have a forcing function not to have the phony mail-in ballots. You're going to have forcing function, Jack Posobiec, to have a up-armored ICE presence at these polling booths. And they say, well, that's going to be intimidation. Well, it ain't intimidation if you're a United States citizen. It's an intimidation if you're a foreigner and here illegally and not eligible to vote. It should be intimidating.
Okay, so before you tell me what you told that crowd, you're going to remember last week there was another right-wing broadcaster who raised the idea of declaring a national emergency ahead of the midterms, and Donald Trump said to that, stranger things have happened. So, what did you tell people yesterday about this?
First of all, you have the most prepared staff in history. I want to say that was wonderful.
I know.
And
they're so
amazing. Secondly, when you see this, Alex, me and you have talked many times. And I remember telling you a long time ago, people thought, satellites were stealing votes or their cyber penetrations. It's process and intimidation. And this is exactly the same message they had in November of 2020. I outlined it many times. I saw it in metadata. I saw it in text messages. I saw it in phone records. And seeing what you're seeing now is exactly the autocrat's playbook. Brendan's right that it's the autocrat's playbook because the economy's bad, but he was going to do this anyway. That's what I've been trying to tell people, is that he's so upside down that he has to somehow make the 2026 and 2028 elections look like others are trying to get in the way. And there's going to be a foreign interference play here. That's what they're going to use for a national emergency. I'm going to just bank it. It's going to be a foreign interference play that causes them to do certain things in certain districts. You're going to have massive lawfare, and you will have ICE people at certain polling stations at swing districts around the country in 2026. But my biggest worry is 2028.
Look, you investigated January 6th. Has the fallout from that event changed how MAGA world or Republicans more broadly might respond to any attempted election interference by the president?
I think it's probably those who still believe in the president, I think, Alex, are going to even be more virulent in their belief systems and how they act. As you become more and more threatened by something that's not real, but you think it's real, it's almost like this fog that sort of takes over, right? And you literally have the apex predator of the grift ecosystem sitting in the White House right now. And this is somebody who knows they can actually capitalize on this through donations also. There's a huge money-making play in conspiracy theories and mining those individuals who believe this. So there's two plays here. It's foreign interference. It's using process and intimidation to try to turn certain districts. But it's also the amount of money that they're going to make on the fundraising based on these conspiracy theories that go directly into PACs and things like that. And that's the real play here, is the massive amount of money that they can mine from the ignorant.
It's always about the money. All right. So there has been growing scrutiny of Trump aide Natalie Harp's place in the White House. MS Now reported this week that she did not have security clearance for a year. Explain how people who don't get that clearance can unknowingly become a security liability.
She is a foreign nation's dream. You know, this is somebody who has expressed unadulterated devotion to Donald Trump. You know, most press secretaries sit outside the room. She seems to sit inside the room. And since she has that direct contact, there's no accountability for the information flows that go to the president. You also have somebody who's in the same ecosystem. It's no different, you know, than bringing a QAnon believer in there. You know, One American News, she's in that same pipeline of this sort of radicalized, metastasized disinformation ecosystem that seems to surround the president. And, you know, when I talked to him about, I meant it. I mean, he is the apex predator of the grift ecosystem. And now he has an informational conduit that can be exposed by anybody around him. And I guess for me, it seems like we've become so desensitized to the lack of professionalism, the incompetence, and the conspiratorial thinking of this presidency that I think that's probably, even though it's been widely reported, the most underreported thing is this, is that it seems like in the history of President Trump and all of his terms, there are massive classification leaks, and it puts all of us in danger. But again, it comes back to the unprofessional and unethical behavior that seems to surround everything this president does.
It is always sobering talking with you, my friend, but I'm glad we have these convos. No, I really
sorry,
am.
Alex.
And my team's going to love that you called them out as being fabulous, which they are. Anyway, thank you.
It was wonderful.
You're fabulous, too.
Thank you.
Thanks.